Hi everyone, Leanne here from Jaded Blossom, and it is day 2 of our Jaded Blossom April 2021 release, and I have a card set to share. Hey, so I'm using a brand new stamp set, Stitch with Love. It's adorable. I'm using this spool of thread, and I'm using this sentiment Bobbin by to say thank you. I'm using the label shaped dies also, and I'll be bringing out some more stuff later. So I went ahead and I pre-stamped all those thread bobbins with VersaFine Clear on Nocturne ink. And then I used clear Simon Says Detail embossing powder and heat embossed them with my Marvy heat tool. And I thought this time I would show you how I go about cutting them out using my brother's Scan and Cut. So my Scan and Cut mat is not sticky. So this is my little solution for it. I'll tape my images down with Scotch tape. That is actually Recollections craft cardstock that I stamped on. Not thick enough for a card base, but okay for when you're layering. I liked the darkness of it because it looks more vintage, and I'm going for a vintage feel. So here I am. I'm just starting up my brother Scan and Cut. Don't mind the Blair Witch kind of situation going on here. So you just press OK. You're going to press the scan right there. Then you're going to say direct cut. And then you're going to press start, and then you're going to load the mat. So you just line up the mat there. And then you're going to push that little mat forward button, and then you'll say start when that red or when the green button lights up, and then that will scan all the images. I find it's harder on darker cardstock to cut stuff out perfectly. These ones turned out fine though. So now I'm taking my little stylus and I'm just moving up the cutting area so it's on my paper itself. And now it takes a couple, a certain number of seconds here just to recognize the mat and what's going on. And once it does, this pops up and it sort of shows the cutouts. Now it's got some background cuts that aren't supposed to be there, but because I'm making a video, I'm not going to fart around with it. So I added a 0.4 border. You saw me push that button, and then now I'm cutting. And really it is that easy. It cuts them all out, lickety split. Whenever I have a stamped image that's cut out with a border, it's always with my brother's Scan and Cut. Works like a charm. And you gotta love it. You gotta love it. Now, every once in a while, boo-boos happen. The machine doesn't recognize something perfectly. I find when you're cutting out an image, you're better off just to put in one at a time. Now, for the video, I put in all of them. But generally, you want to put in one at a time, and it just makes it a lot easier for your machine to recognize what you're cutting out and cutting it out. I tend to stamp, one extra image just in case. In case there's a boo-boo happen, and then I have a backup. So there we go. Now, also, another thing, when I'm coloring images with Copics, I tend to cut them out first and then color them after, because you'd hate to color something and then have it get messed up, have the cutting mess up and then mess up your image that you spent so much time on. So now I'm just releasing the mat. Great. And then I'll take it over to my station there, and I took all my little spools out, and there they all are. So isn't that cute? Super easy peasy and nice and shine from that embossing powder. I have to say that I don't know if I've used Simon Says Clear Detail embossing powder before, but it's fabulous. It's really good. So now I'm also using the mini tag dies 3, and I'm using the panel dies. In the mini tags die 3, I'm using the small fishtail one. So I've pulled out just a foam mat, and I'm going to do some freehand stamping with that same VersaFine Clear Nocturne ink. I used my powder tool on my little cutout banner. Now that banner is cut out, or the flag die or whatever you want to call it, is cut out with Recollections craft cardstock, the same as the thread spool. So now I'm taking that Simon Says Clear embossing ink, and I'm just going to sprinkle that over top, and then I will melt it with my heat tool. So that's my Marvy heat tool. It's just a cheap heat gun. I find it works fine. I know other people, rave about different brands, but it's been working for me. So if it stops working, I'll think about getting a more fancy one, but for now it's fine. There we go. So that's what it is. So I go ahead and I cut out 8 of those because I'm making 8 thank you cards today. And then those are the 8 spools. Now I'm using the Haberdash die cuts with a view stack. Now I know it's hard to believe, but I am. So I went ahead and I used the stitched label dies the stitch label shape dies, and I went ahead and cut out all paper from that pad. And I also just cut out plain rectangles at 4 by 5 1/4 because it's going to be going on an A2 sized card. And then I also cut out, you'll see, the plaid paper is also from there, and I used the stitched panel dies to cut those out. So I need one for each card. So I'm going to do some inking. So I'm inking with Distress Ink and Vintage Photo and Arranger blending foam there. And this does not have to be perfect because this is meant to look vintage and kind of old. So now I've sped it up so you get the gist. I'm just, quickly inking those things. I'm also going to ink around my sentiment strip. And like, these don't have to be perfect. And like, super fast to do this inking. So that's what I'm doing. I'm just quickly inking all of these. And then this is my piece of paper. This is, I really wanted to use this. It kind of reminds me of a tailor, like a men's tailor. And I'm going for masculine thank you cards because I always make girly stuff. So I thought I'm going to do some man stuff today. And it's rare. It's a rare thing. So I'm just quickly inking the edges of all my extra pieces there. Now I've got my Martha Stewart scoreboard and my Teflon bone folder, and I've got a piece of pine, what's it called? Pine feather paper tray ink cardstock, 4.25 by 11, scored at 5.5. So I have an A2 sized vertical card, and I'm just quickly scoring them all. I'm working on a Stampin' Up pad too, just so you can see that. So now I'm going to be using my Simon Says Stamp Craft Tacky glue. And I'm just gluing the back of that piece of paper. So that's 4 by 5 1/4. So it'll give you like a nice 1/4 inch border. I like using glue because I've got some wiggle room. And it really makes it easy to lay this out. Now, shockingly, that pine feather is like a really dark green. But it worked the best with that background paper. I can't explain it. So now I'm taking my, my card base and I'm just sort of making myself a little spot so it's easy to mass produce. So I drew a line around the card, and where that where those dashed lines are coming in on each side, that's where I'm going to line up that stitch panel die. And you'll notice that I sort of cut it 2/3 and 1/3, and you'll see why, because you only need one piece and you can split it up. So I'm lining up the top edge of that stitch panel die with that line on my paper. And it'll be easy when I go ahead to make the rest of the cards because I can just quickly line everything up and just crank them out. So I'm lining the plaid paper up, overlapping my card base. So now that is the larger stitch label die. And you'll see there's little top hats on it embossed. But you know what? You're not going to see it anyway. It's just going to look like an all over pattern once I get the green on there. So I'm not too concerned that it's not going in the right direction. There we go. So now I'm trying to figure out where I'm going to lay this little mini tag die. Now that I've figured it out, I'm going to glue it down with my Simon Says Stamp Craft Tacky glue again. I'm using glue for everything today. There we go. So I'm just going to line this up. And how easy is that? And then I'm going to pop the green one on top. No dimension at this point. There we go. And like that, so I just find that, when you're making mass producing, you want to come up with your basic design and then you can just go to town. So that's what I'm doing here. I'm going to pop up my little spool with Stampin' Up dimensionals. Those are the normal sized ones. I just use 4 on each one. And I'm going to just kind of have it towards the bottom, kind of, off kilter there. And I'm going to go ahead and get the rest of these cards made. But right now, I'm just adding in the area where I'll write on this card base. Now on this one, I put it in the center, but on the other ones, I kind of put it off to the side. It doesn't matter. What I'm doing is I'm going to bring in some slices of leftover paper on the inside, because you might as well use it, right? So there we go. So you'll see that I'm going to quickly get this going. Now this is what I do with the rest of the insides of the cards. So I'm going to put it up in the upper left-hand corner. That is 3 by 4 1/4. Then I'm going to go and add, that's a 2-inch slice of paper from that pad. And then I've got a 1-inch slice of paper from the same pad. There we go. So one is 4.25 wide and the other one's 4 inches wide. And now I'm just going to quickly assemble all of these cards. So easy. So this is what I do when I need to have a bunch of cards. I've been using all my thank you cards. I have like none. And every time I need to give one to a guy, I swear it has glitter on it. It's blinged up, you know. And I'm not sure if you know, I'm sure some guys don't mind it, but you know, I was kind of going for like a masculine kind of minimalist look here. So I thought, I'm going to get some man cards made. There we go. So now I'm quickly just popping those spools all on. I wish I could go this speed in real life. You know, wouldn't that be great? Especially for like cleaning the house. That'd be awesome. So now I've got my Versamark marker. And what I'm going to do is I'm adding in some flicks on the thread. And that will make whatever the cardstock is a little bit darker. So that's what I'm going for. I'm just trying to get a little dimension with like no coloring is what I'm doing. So now I'm pulling in my Spectrum Noir markers because I'm going, you know, near heat embossing and I don't want to wreck my Copics. So this is an IG9 and I'm just using that to color in the needle. It's got a little bullet point, so that makes it nice and easy. And this is an EB3 and I'm just going to color in the center of the spool. I'm going to add a few flicks on either side of the spool just to add a little something. And that's it. Like that's all the coloring I'm going to do on these cards. Like I just think that it's like, this is a super fast set. So now I'm pulled up my Liquid Mercury Nouveau Crystal Drops. And I'm going to add 5 droplets to the front of this card base. Or card front, sorry. And I'm just trying to decide where they're going to end up. And then once I find my design, then I can just quickly crank them out, you know. So I kind of like where they are there. So I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing on all of them. Now, you know how I straddle the image, kind of straddle the sentiment, draw the eye, those kind of things. And I honestly thought of using black, but I don't know, the Liquid Mercury just kind of called to me. And I really like how that turned out, even though my favorites are always kind of mostly white, sometimes black. Those are the colors that I use the most. I can't lie. There we go. So I'm just quickly adding on. So you see me add them on for 2 of the cards. And then I'm just going to go to town now and add them on each one. And this is what they turned out to look like. Thank you so much for stopping by. Be sure to stop on over at the Jada Blossom blog and be inspired by the whole design team. And come back tomorrow and see what I have for you, because I'm going to have another video and some more creations. Thanks, everyone. We'll see you soon. Bye-bye.